Hey everyone, Cahlen here, and I wanted to tell you about my recent eating experiences. So I kind of spent the most of the time that I was living outside eating roughly 1 to 2 meals a day, kind of eating over a small period of time, maybe 1 to 4 hours or something like that. And of course deviating from that sometimes, but generally that's kind of what I've been doing for a long time, and it's been really nice because whenever I notice that I have a really clear mind, I have very clean energy, and I don't feel like I'm going to get tired. And then I eat, and maybe I'll solve a hunger problem, but now I have kind of a different energy problem because my body is digesting food. So that whole process is hugely draining on the resources of the body, and so whenever I do that, I know that I'm probably not going to be running at my top ability in terms of physical and mental after I eat. So it just makes sense to me to eat less, and ideally to eat once a day. And even possibly if you can optimize your system enough to eat less than once a day. You can definitely do things like that. So the body is very adaptable, and it's very beneficial to reduce the amount of time that you're digesting food. We know that people, or this is probably largely just animal studies, but it's consistent to all animals that we've studied, is that the less that they eat, both the two different things, the calories that they get, if you reduce that, and also separately, if you reduce the amount of time they spend digesting food, so they maybe have an intermittent fasting diet where they only eat once a day or something like that, both of those separately have effects on the longevity of the biological being, right? So it shows that eating is kind of sucking life out of you in a way. And you need a different form of energy that you're getting from that food, but you're also kind of trading off a more closely tied to your lifespan, right? So anyways, I've been doing that for a long time, and then I went to my friend's house to work, and his wife was, it was really hard to even convince her not to cook me breakfast. At least I don't eat breakfast, right? I would prefer actually not to eat lunch as well, but that would freak them out, right? Even just not eating breakfast freaked them out. Seriously freaked them out. So anyways, I was eating quite a lot of food, and she would give me a lot of food, and a lot of good food, right? And even stuff that they wouldn't normally have bought, like fruits, lots of fruits and stuff like that, like strawberries, lots of good things, right? So anyways, I just kind of took the chance to just kind of eat, right? Except for breakfast. I still kept that aspect. And it's a good reminder. It's nice to eat. Eating is one of the best things in life. But also, it was a really strong reminder of how that negatively affects me, right? In terms of my energy, but also in terms of my overall health. I felt like it was, you can kind of tell when you're starting to become this, you're going down the path of maybe getting sick. And I don't think I've gotten anywhere near close to sick, but I could tell that my body was not as far away from sickness as it has been for a long time. So anyways, I basically felt like also just having something in your stomach all the time, right, and moving through you is distracting and feels like it weighs you down. So anyways, yesterday I went to all I had was one meal, and it was in less than an hour. And it was basically just the rice, beans, and lentil with coconut butter added to it after it's done cooking with spices, and just filling my camp pot up to the brim basically of that. And that's a very high calorie food which will take a long time to digest, and which has lots of good things in it. So yesterday, even though I've been working, right, cutting trees and making firewood and stuff like that, I was fine with just that. That's all I had. So anyways, I feel like that's a good sign. I would like to get to the point where I'm not eating most of the day, because also it's just time consuming to cook and then to eat, and then also the time where you could have been doing something productive, but you're kind of tired or weighed down now that you're digesting, is also sort of wasting time. And so I think the only reason we eat 3 meals a day is because we are lucky enough to live in a time where humanity has that luxury, and most of us have had that luxury for almost our entire lives, or all of our entire lives, and that maybe for multiple generations have had that for their entire lives. And so we just kind of got used to pigging out for the pleasure of it, basically, and it became a thing that our bodies got used to. So if another person didn't eat breakfast, they might not feel very good. They may feel like they don't have energy up till lunch, but partly I think that's also psychological. There is some biological, like your biology just got used to it, but also a psychological thing. You just expect yourself to not feel good if you don't eat, and so if you don't eat, you start seeing all the signs, right? Even though they were there and they were always there, you just are now looking for them. So anyways, L-etomilamine, I bring him up a lot. Jesse Boudreau, the guy whose farm I'm on, L-Tom's a breatharian, and he calls himself a solitarian now, but basically he can go long periods of time without eating, weeks at a time. And Jesse, he only drinks, right? So basically that's all he ever has. He prepares things which he drinks. And so even that would seem like a difficult thing to achieve to a person who's eating 3 big square meals a day. So anyways, I'm just trying to point out there's a lot of variance. There's a lot that the body can deal with and get used to, and some of these are more beneficial if your goals are to live a long time and to live in a body which is healthy. So anyways, this is my thoughts on that. I'll see you guys later.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please consider sharing it. If you'd like to help me out in a more substantial way, you can learn how to do so at cahlen.org/gift. And if you'd like to have a one-on-one conversation with me, whether publicly or privately, you can learn how to do so at cahlen.org/one-on-one. Thanks again for watching.